Hello, welcome to yesterday's Airlines. It has been a few weeks since I last published a video at the channel, and that was the Gemini release announcements for June. We've got one last set of announcements for this month before we swing into the July announcements, and it is jcwings who seem to announce their models right at the end of the month. And this month from JC, we've got quite an interesting batch. In fact, I think I said something similar last month because JC have actually been doing a decent job in the last couple of months after a not great start to the year. They really have improved and been putting out some much more interesting models. So great to see JC doing some more interesting material. But of course, there is also still a selection of the release set here, which is quite reminiscent of what we've seen before. And as always with JC, half of the models are going to be out within the next couple of months, and half of them are really just suggestions that they will be making the models, just not for some time. So you know they will be coming, but you don't know when they'll be coming. We talked about that a lot before, and I'm sure we will again, because it doesn't look like JC are going to change that behavior. But nonetheless, this month we've got another bumper set. We've got 15 models to discuss, if I count the flaps up and flaps down variants as one, which I generally do. So 15 models to look through and rank in this set of releases for the end of June 2023. Before we get to those models, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Hope you enjoy the material, and don't forget also that this is just a small part of the work I do. I publish a lot on the Instagram channel at Airlines, and I use the Facebook groups and my Facebook channel to also push material out. So check those out as well. And most of that material starts at yesterdaysairlines.com. So don't forget that the website is the key place to understand what I'm trying to achieve with Yesterday's Airlines, and it linking out to my social media profiles. But let's get on and check out what Johan Chan and his model company are going to be producing for us in the next couple of months. There's some good stuff here. Okay, so I just said there was some good stuff here, and there is, but it's not all fabulous. And we start with a couple of models which are effectively re-releases, so they're less exciting. The first of these is a Middle East Airlines A321 Neo. The reg is Tango 7 ME3. For starters, I didn't recognise or realise that these were registered Tango 7 rather than the old OD of Lebanon's. I'm not sure why they're registered elsewhere, but anyway, nonetheless, this A321 Neo is wearing the 10,000th A320 family sticker on top of the standard MEA scheme that exists at the moment, which is a nice scheme. MEA have had a series of really attractive liveries based, of course, partly on the cedar tree, which is, you know, synonymous really with Lebanon. But this is not the first MEA A321 Neo in 400 scale, or even by jcwings, which does temper my interest in it quite a bit. Panda Models have released a really nice version of exactly the same airframe as this one back in 2020. I hadn't even noticed that release had come out, but it actually looks really nice looking at the pictures. Obviously, the Panda Neo is an excellent mould, and they did a good job. So there's already a great version of this model that's been released, albeit I imagine it's quite hard to get hold of nowadays. But JC themselves have actually produced an MEA A321 Neo already as well. They released Tango 7 ME1, so the first aircraft for MEA, and that is exactly the same as this, except obviously it doesn't have that 10,000th sticker attached to it. So yeah, as you can see from the pictures, it looks okay within the remit, I guess, of the jcwings A321 mould, which is okay, but not great. It's interesting that the pictures I've got of this one, actually the engines don't look so horrifically oversized as they do sometimes, but it still doesn't really compete with the Panda Models Neo. So yeah, I'm not excited about this, obviously, because it's effectively re-released just with that sticker on, and that version has been made before by Panda. So this one's, yeah, got workhorse on it all day. It'll be fine, but yeah, just workhorse really, I think. Next up is a French Air Force A330, and this is again another model which I thought, oh, this looks quite interesting, and then I checked what had been made, and it looks a lot less interesting once you've done that. This aircraft is registered F Uniform Juliet Charlie Tango, and I didn't realise, I've just not been paying attention, that there had already been several French Air Force A330s made already. So there was a really old version by Gemini made quite a long time ago, 2013. So that's 10 years old. I'm an old mould. But there's also been more recent versions. There's been an Aviation 400 version in 2020. There has been an ngmodels version, even more recent than that, in 2021. And, you know what I'm going to say, there has been a jcwings version as well, already made. And that was made in 2021 as well. And that's registered Uniform Juliet Charlie Sierra. So this release, Charlie Tango, is effectively exactly the same as a release from 2 years ago. I can't see any differences at all with it. So once again, just like the A321, it'll do the job, but it's a job which has already been done by JC themselves and also AV400 and NG. Of all those versions, I would probably pick the NG myself, but this one looks okay, the pictures look okay, but it's workhorse. There's no need to really discuss this one for a long period of time. It's just not really doing it for me. But next up, there is something which is doing it for me, even though it is ostensibly a military model. I have for a long time thought that maybe we won't ever see any more prop moulds being made in 400 scale. The focus has switched so much to jets, and even amongst jets, just modern twin jets. And I had heard rumours of jcwings making some Antonov twins for a while now, for a couple of years, and as is often the case with JC, you're never entirely sure what's happening with these moulds. Are they going to come out or are they not, and when? You just don't know. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, look what's turned up. A Ukrainian Air Force Antonov An26. And the An26 is the military version of the Antonov 24 with a rear cargo door. But otherwise it looks broadly the same as the An24 does. I would really hope that there is also going to be an An24 version coming up, because it perhaps offers more options for releases, certainly for airliners, which are my focus. But wow, this mould looks excellent already. The pictures I'm seeing, the aircraft looks really nice and really finely made, and it's not really the sort of issue you really expect in 2023. It's quite a brave and interesting decision and choice to make an Antonov twin, and I guess it's kind of cool that it's in the Ukraine Air Force colours, since presumably everyone listening on this call is on the side of Ukraine in the war against Russia. So yeah, that's cool. I can understand why they've made this version first, and it's really nice to see a new prop mould come out, and one that looks from the pictures here like it is pretty good. So really looking forward to hopefully getting a closer look at this little Antonov twin. I get the feeling it's going to be an excellent mould. I need to do some research and have a look and see what else can be made on this. I do know it was operated by obviously lots of air forces and a variety of airlines in the post-Soviet era too. So there are options for using this mould. But this version that I'm just looking at, I really like the look of the mould. I really like a lot of the detailing on the model that's being shown in the pictures. Looks fabulous. It really does. I'm super interested in this, and you know, this mould and model, clearly this is supersonic. It's a unique new mould for a turboprop. That's amazing in this time, really. I can't see other brands making new turboprop molds anytime soon, not even Aero Classics. So fabulous work, JC. Excellent stuff. Supersonic all the way for this model. The fourth model of the month is also a turboprop, so that in itself is unusual. We've got two turboprop releases in one release set from a manufacturer. And this one is much newer. It's an ATR 72. It's a Series 600, I think. It's operated by Nok Air, or it was operated by Nok Air of Thailand. HSDRC is the registration. I've been on record before saying that I don't really rate the Nok Air scheme. The beak has always bothered me, but I have to say that it works much better on the ATR than it does on the 737. JC have made 3 previous ATR 72s for Nok Air, and they all look quite nice. As I say, I think the scheme suits the ATR much better than it does the jets, but this one is different. It's a different version of the scheme. It's not the same series of ATR, although outwardly they're effectively the same, I think, apart from maybe the props. The others were 200s, this one's a 600. The aircraft isn't with Nok Air anymore. I think it's gone on to Nepal, but it looks really nice. And yeah, if only Nok Air didn't have that tail logo. I really hate that beak on the tail, but still, this is quite colourful. It's quite interesting. It's a turboprop, and it does seem that Nok Air are pretty popular. There have been several Panda model releases in recent history, for example, and a lot of Phoenix 737. So people obviously are rating and liking Nok Air. I guess it is colourful. So it's not something that I will collect, but yeah, I'm going to give this one high flyer. The ATR mould is a very nice little mould, and it's good to see it being used, so can't argue with that. So now we're going to move into Boeing territory with model number 5, and I literally just in the last week wrote a long piece talking about the jcwings 2020 747-400 mould, what it's been used for, how those models have looked, and they're literally here just announcing another 747-400 using that mould, so that's good. So check out that article on the website, yesterdaysairlines.com, if you haven't already. It goes through the mould, talks about its quality, and it's really good, and goes through all the releases so far. But this one, the new version here that they're putting out this month, is VT-ESO Air India in the classic scheme. It comes flaps up and flaps down, and just look at the pictures. It looks superb. It looks so retro with that natural metal belly, and really looks great, and I think illustrates what they can be doing with this mould if they want to. Air India has been getting a lot of love recently, but not a lot of retro love necessarily, and it's interesting that when you look at what's been made in terms of Air India 747-400s, there have been 6, but 4 of those are wearing the later scheme, and only 2 are wearing this classic livery, and those are really old versions. One is by Gemini, one is by Dragon Wings, and they both date to before 2007, so they're both really old models. In fact, the Gemini version dates from turn of the century, so they're both really old, and this is gonna be a lot nicer than those because of that reason. The mold is excellent, and here I think it really looks really good. It's really showing off the lines of the mold well, and there's produced a few pictures here, as you can see, and generally I think that from all the angles here it's looking great. So I'm sure this one will be a really hot seller. I hope it will be. I've got to perhaps find a reason to buy it because I don't have much room for Indian airliners, and I just got the Big Bird Series 300, but that's a different problem. This is clearly a supersonic model. It's another great release. Really nice to be seeing the 744 being used nicely like this. Excellent work, jcwings. And next we have quite an unusual aircraft. It's a 767-200. It's operated by Omni Air International, registered N225AX, but it's got Aer Lingus titles, and this is the 3rd model in a series of these. So they've already produced an Omni Air standard colours version, N207AX, didn't excite me too much. They've also already released an Aer Lingus 767-200 N234AX, which is kind of in an Omni hybrid version, but with an Aer Lingus tail and titles. And now we've got this new version here, which is kind of halfway in between those. It is got pretty much the standard Omni Air scheme, but it's got Aer Lingus titles at the rear of the aircraft. It's got the shamrock on the engines, and it's got this Wild Atlantic Way titling forward. And I looked up what the Wild Atlantic Way was all about. And basically the Wild Atlantic Way is a tourism trail on the west coast of Ireland. It's a long, I think 2,500 kilometers or something, driving route. So it's a holiday route, and I guess that's what they're advertising here with the logo and the titles on the front of this. But also what was interesting was just the story here around Aer Lingus actually leasing these 767, or this one in particular, which was leased in 2015 to take over the Shannon to Boston route, which had been operated by a 757. They leased this aircraft for a short period rather than bring back one of their A330-200s. So there's a little bit of a tale there, and I always like it when you can connect a bit of aviation history to an individual model, and that for me really elevates this release from something which is just kind of a bit meh to something actually which is quite interesting, because it's got that little story behind it, and I'm sure there are lots of Aer Lingus collectors out there. I know it's a very popular airline, and you know, if I was an Aer Lingus collector, then I would be snapping up this model to go with the rest of my EI fleet. So I actually am quite interested in it. It's unusual, and it's got that little bit of something. The scheme isn't particularly exciting, but it's got this Wild Atlantic Way thing to it. I don't know, there's something about it. There's something about it. I don't know why. I wasn't interested in the Aer Lingus one previously. I wasn't interested in the Omni one, but this one, which kind of mashes the two together somehow, has got my attention for some reason. So, yeah, I'm liking this one actually. Yeah, I can't buy it. It's not. It's way too young. 2015 is too young, but it's. Yeah, I like that. I like having the odd, interesting story. It's out there. It's different, and yeah, I'm gonna high fly this one. I also should say that I really like the JC700. It looks really nice. In fact, I think it probably looks. In fact, no, there's no probably. It looks better than the Aero Classics version, even though it's still got a seam. In other ways, it's superior. It's got better engines. It's got better landing gear. It's got aerials. You know, it's a better overall package. So this one looks really nice, so I'm going to put this one in high fly. I know lots of people probably disagree with that, but I'm quite interested in this one. It's quite cool and funky. Okay, just two models to talk about now in the release set of models coming soon. And the next one up is another Boeing company demonstrator, house colours, 777-9. And JC remains the only brand which has a 777-9 mould, though I believe AV400 are working on one. They've released quite a few various 777-9s, both with the wingtips raised and lowered because they're separate moulds. This one is wearing, again, actually what you might think is quite a boring scheme. I should also say they've made this in 200 scale already. But this aircraft, N779XY, is wearing what you could think is quite a tedious scheme because it largely is white. It's just got... it's got the standard 779 tail, but then the fuselage is pretty much blank with just Boeing titles on the front. But there's something about it which really works for me. I'm not sure what that is. All the other 777 schemes, they kind of cover the whole aircraft in paint and wavy lines and so on, but even though I like them, and I've got one of them, they're slightly overdoing it, and I actually really quite like the look of this one, which is just got a long white tuba. There's something going on with me because usually I'd moan about how boring a scheme was here, but no, I actually quite like it. I quite like it. I like the mould too. I know there's been talk about having the window line too high on this. Not entirely sure if it's a really big problem here. Certainly on this release, it doesn't look dramatically high to me. But overall, I think it's a great mould. I actually, like I was saying, for some reason I like the scheme. I'm going to high fly this one too. It's nice. And if I collected or had more room for large aircraft in my house colours area, then I would strongly consider acquiring it. As it is, my house colours cabinet, which is a Detolf, is bursting from the seams. I haven't got any room really for any more aircraft of the size of this to go in it, which is a shame. But I like it, and I'm going to keep this one up into high fly. And the last model this month of the coming soon variety is a North Atlantic 7879 Lima November, Foxtrot November, Bravo is the reg. Its standard colours, flaps up and flaps down. They've already released Lima November Oscar back in 2022, so only last year. And NG also released the same reg last year too, I believe. So we're not going anywhere new or unusual here. This is exactly the same as has already been released. It's just a re-release with a different reg. Yeah, and that alone means I'm not talking about it much. This one's going into workhorse, really not particularly thrilling. And that brings to an end the discussion of models that JC will get out in the next 2 or 3 months. There's some really good stuff within here. Although there is re-release material like the MEA and the French Air Force and the North Atlantic, there is also some really nice releases here too, telling interesting aviation stories like that Omni Aer Lingus 76, or just, you know, real classics of aviation like the Air India 744. So excellent. And then of course on top of that, the icing on the cake is the new mould for the Antonov 26. But let's have a look now at the models which will be made, but probably not until next year, I would guess, at the earliest. And as always, that does present some issues for talking about them, because you don't know what other brands are going to do in the timescales. But if I had to guess, then I would say, again, quite a few of these models will get a release from others before the JC version comes out. And we'll start with Japan Airlines 767-300. The reg is JA614J. It's called Dream Go Around, and it's another one of these Japan Airlines Disney schemes, of which there have been a lot. So this one is celebrating the Tokyo Disney Resort. I think it's 40 years of that resort. The scheme is just like a lot of the other ones, really. Most of the body of the aircraft is painted, and it's got a lot of Disney related characters on it. The old classics here, we've got Goofy, Pluto, Donald, Daffy. Not Daffy. Wrong. Wrong. You know what I mean. Not Daffy. Mickey, I meant. But, you know, all these largely irrelevant Disney characters don't actually appear anywhere anymore. But nonetheless, what is interesting when you look at these JAL Disney schemes is, and there have been several others previously, is that for every one that has been released, there is both a JC and a Phoenix version, and they are almost always released or announced alongside each other. So I would be stunned if the next set of Phoenix releases, announced in probably next week, does not have this exact model in it as well. There's already been one of these recently, I think it was probably late last year. Oh no, it was actually this year, in the 100 Years Disney scheme, and that has already been released by Phoenix and just announced by JC. And that's the problem here for JC, is that Phoenix will release this, and their 76 is already really nice. So they're going to release a perfectly good version of it at least 10 to 12 months earlier than jcwings are going to get their version out. So in that light, even though I like the JC 767, I'm just going to put this one into workhorse. I'm not particularly excited by Disney liveries anyway, but that's the problem they've got, JC, here, that it's difficult to compete when you know there's going to be a similar quality product out a lot earlier. So why would you get or wait for this version? I'm not sure, but hey, if you do, you do. And another example of this is the next model. And this one, however, is a bit more exciting. And this one is a 747-400 freighter. It's the Cathay Pacific. It's BHUO. And I'm pretty sure this was announced by Phoenix last month, but obviously you know what I think of the Phoenix 747s. And the cool thing that comes with this one is it's going to be interactive, and I do like the interactive series. I know some people don't, but I do. I think they look cool, and this one will look super nice in the interactive with the doors open. Obviously whether you have the doors closed is entirely up to you, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to have the doors closed on an interactive version to me. I think this will look lovely in this silver bullet scheme, and I'm going to high flyer it. I'm not going to supersonic it because the model hasn't arrived and it's a long way out in the future, and that's again a problem. But it is going to be a model that I'll be looking out for. Hopefully it will get out sooner rather than later. Next up, there's a trio of 787s, and these are all new schemes and special schemes, and personally none of them really do much for me. So the first one up is all Nippon. It's another Pokemon aircraft. It's Pikachu Jet, more bright colours with lots of Pokemon down the side of it. I mean, there's an endless number of these, and obviously there's a big audience for them. And whoopie-doo for you if you like them, and I'm sure some people do, but they don't do much for me. It's already been announced by Phoenix. It's going to be announced by NG, they've said. There's this version too. Everyone's going to make it. I'm just going to workhorse it because this is going to take ages again to come out. I'm sure that it'll be lovely, but it's a workhorse model. And likewise, joining that in workhorse is the next, which is Riyadh Air, this new Saudi airline, which has got huge ambitions and has made a big order. It's just painted its first aircraft in what I think is one of two schemes they're going to have. And this one is very colourful, but I'm struggling to get on board, obviously. Saudi Arabia doesn't stand for anything that I support. And everyone else, again, is going to make this. It's already been announced by Aviation 400. I'm sure it will come out with NG and Phoenix. And, it's just already just know there's going to be at least 4 of these. Just makes me a bit sad. So I'm going to put this one also in workhorse. Once again, the JC version will be fine. But when will it arrive? And the last aircraft is also Saudi Arabian. This one's Saudia. It's 787-10 HZAR32, but this one's wearing the retro Saudia scheme. Actually looks cool. It looks really nice because, hey, it's a retro scheme, and actually quite looks like it really suits the 787 with the bright green on the cheat line, or I don't know what cheat lines are, they? Pinstripes or whatever they are, but nonetheless, looks good. And yeah, I don't love Saudi Arabia, but this one looks quite nice. I'm sure everyone else will make it as well. That's the only thing I'll say here. But I'm going to high fly this one, I think. Mainly because I think the scheme's cool. But again, when will it be out? Don't really know. So that's 14 of the 15 models discussed this month. And the only one that's left over is one that's not on the ranking sheet here. And that is because I'm not really sure what to make of it. The aircraft is the A350 freighter, and just this week Airbus announced the scheme for it, which is this kind of packaging type scheme, which looks pretty cool. It's got like this way up stickers and other badges and a pretend bill on it, and opening for business for the cargo doors, things like that. I mean, it looks quite fun. The scheme will be nice, and that's all great. My only real issue here is that the A350 freighter isn't the same as an A350-900 or 1000. It's sort of subtly different in terms of the length, I think, of the aircraft. So I'm not sure what JC are going to do here. It seems like they've announced it super early, but are they going to make a new tooling for the A350-9000 freighter version? It's not even called the 9000 version, is it? I'm not really sure. It seems unlikely, but maybe they are. Maybe they are. It's just, I don't know, and that makes it really hard to rank if you don't know what they're really going to do. It does seem like they've announced this a little bit early, in the sense that it's going to be ages before this aircraft is even painted up or even flying. So, it's not even going to enter service for another couple of years at the earliest. So, not sure. I'm not gonna rank this one. I'm interested in the scheme. I'm interested in it, but at this point, announcing the model seems just pointless. I just don't know why they've bothered. We don't know if they're producing a new mould. We don't even, I think, know what the reg of the aircraft is going to be. Though there's some regs in the imagery that they've got up and about. anything could happen between now and then. It's a paper aeroplane. So, yeah, I'm just going to not put this one in the ranking. I don't really know why JC have announced it. I'm not sure why you pre-order something you don't honestly know what the resulting model is going to look like. So, that's a bit weird for me. At least leave that one there, I think. But okay, that is my view on this month's jcwings releases. I think in tune with what I said last month. You know, I'm finding the actual releases that are coming out soon more interesting than the releases that are coming out in the future, because the releases coming out in the future are still, oh, it's an A350, oh, it's a 787. It's like they're rarely that interesting, and everyone else is going to make them anyway. But where JC can really make a difference is with its large catalogue of interesting molds, like the 767-200, like the ATR, now like the Antonov An26. You know, these are really interesting, and if they can start releasing some more interesting models, they can really, you know, plough a trail which nobody else is going down. So yes, please, JC, can we see some 111s or Britannias or Fokker 100s? You've got the mould, so you can release them. I know there are some constraints, but quite often I feel you can get around those if you try. So it's an interesting month. There are some nice models here, and it is good to see jcwings trying new things and producing some interesting models. So good work there, and I look forward to getting a couple of these. I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Leave a like if you did. Obviously, subscribe to the channel. Chuck a comment in as well. What are you interested in this month? Which of these models interests you the most? And have I inspired you to take another look at that Omni 767? Probably not. But nonetheless, thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time from yesterday's Airlines. Bye.